on.
Should be, but I'm just trying to make sure I can see them.
Does that blue dot up there turn to red?
That drone real quick. It's ready to go.
Yes, we're live.
Huh? We're live?
We're live.
Okay.
Like going to Lucas Oil, you're gonna watch it on the screen. Yeah, right.
Okay, I've been informed that we are live, so I'm going to call this evening's meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. I recognize that we have a quorum present with all members here. I believe we have an amendment to the agenda.
Yeah, Madam President, I move that we amend the agenda by removing under letter D, number 1, the Mental Health of America, Rachel Love presentation, that we strike that.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Thank you, Mrs. Fiddler. I have a motion and a second to amend the agenda as stated. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimously. Next, could I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Fiddler. Thank you, Mr. Mann. I have a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimously. I believe we do not have any visitors tonight unless Mr. Steffi or Mr. Emerson have something they want to say. Hearing that, we'll move on to routine matters. I have a request to approve the minutes for the executive and regular sessions held on July 14th, 2025.
A motion to approve the minutes for the executive and regular session on July 14th, 2025.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Lewis. Thank you, Mr. Reitmeyer. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for the executive and regular sessions held on Bastille Day, July 14th, 2025. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand.
I'm abstaining.
And one abstention, so the motion carried 6-0-1. And next, approval of our claims and financial reports. Mr. Linton.
This evening, I am requesting the board to approve our claims and financial reports in the amount of $1,474,006.86. That's claims since last meeting plus 2 payrolls.
I'll make a motion to approve for approval of the claims and financial reports.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Reitmeyer. Thank you, Mrs. Halton. I have a motion and a second to approve the claims and financial reports as presented. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimously. We deleted communications. We have no old business. We'll move on to new business. Mr. Linton, you have our budget workshop and the request to advertise the budget and capital projects and school bus replacement.
All right.
There.
Okay, so this evening, as part of the annual budget process, you can see on the screen there that tonight is our budget workshop, which is required by law for me to the school administration to present to the board and to the public what we propose our advertised budget to look like. We'll come back again on August the 25th for a special session to have our public hearing. That'll be an opportunity for the public to take a look at our budget, which will be posted on Gateway in the morning, as well as our bus replacement and our CPF plan. And then on September 9th, which is a day later, that's a Tuesday instead of a Monday, we'll have our regular board meeting then to adopt the 2026 budget. Just as a reminder, those are the funds that I've listed on the screen. The education, the operation, debt service, pension bond, and rainy day are the the 5 funds that we have at Cloverdale Community Schools that we submit to the DLGF for budget approval. Just a little bit of information that goes into building the budget. Average daily membership is what drives the education portion of the budget. All other funds that were listed are, if they have revenue going into it, they're tax driven. Debt, pension, and operation are the 3 funds that are tax driven. The education fund is driven primarily on attendance and the foundation formula the state uses to send money to us. So you can see here that from last year to the year prior, we had lost 6 students. That's not bad for a small rural school district. Most districts are losing a higher percentage than that. So we felt like that was good news for us. We typically budget the loss of 12 to 15 kids. So that was good for the budget in the sense we didn't lose too many of our brick and mortar kids. What was even better for our budget, though, was when you look at where we started with Cloverdale Distance Learning Academy in January 2020, we started with 179 kids. We ended last year with 2,150 kids, and you can see the increase there. These students that are enrolled across the entire state of Indiana with Cloverdale Community Schools, for those students, we receive 85% funding of the foundation amount of what we receive for our brick and mortar kids. Please, if anyone has any questions as we go through this, don't hesitate to stop me. So this is just a historical look that I like to provide the board and the community with concerning our cash balance for the education fund. I always highlight the education fund. That's the largest fund that we have, and it's really what drives a lot of our financial decisions, to be quite honest. And, you know, when you go back to 2017, there was a lot going on with our economy and just school in general. And you can see that things were relatively tight at Cloverdale, but since, you know, that time, you can see that we've been steadily since 2020 building our cash balance in this fund. Last year was obviously a good year. We increased the cash balance in 2025, almost $1.8 million. Some of the assumptions that are used for in building the budget, we look at efforts will be made to maintain a responsible staffing level for positions that are supported by the education fund. We have all of our teachers and some of our instructional assistants, part of the principal's salaries and things like that, part of Mrs. Ames's salary will come out. Anyone that works or has contact with what's going on in the classroom, all or a portion of their salary can come out of that fund. So even though our budget is doing very well, very solid, overall we see tremendous growth in the district when you add our online students into the formula. We still work really hard to maintain responsible staffing numbers so that we can keep our budget in solid position. And Mr. Steffi's here this evening representing the CEA. I think we've got a good working relationship and are kind of on the same page as making sure that we do the best we can for our employees while at the same time keeping a solid budget in place. Budgeted in a 10% increase for utility. You can see a 15% increase for property casualty insurance. As I'd mentioned earlier, this year it looks like I've budgeted in a -12, a decline in 12 students for this school year for our brick and mortar students. Enrollment currently doesn't look like that's going to happen, but just you always underestimate your revenue and overestimate your expenditures in this situation. The budget's based on Cloverdale Distance Learning Academy not growing. We ended the year with 2150. Talking with Mrs. Ames, I think we'll probably exceed that considerably, but again, to keep a conservative budget, that's what this budget's been based on. And then our circuit breaker impact, went up substantially, but it's still not very high compared to a lot of neighboring schools are $700,000 and $800,000 in their tax caps, and we're at $177,000. So that went up from like 72,000, I think, from last year, but still a very manageable number. Tax bill that'll impact the operation fund, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute. So you can see our tax and levy history. You go back to, let's see, about 2019. It has dropped every year since then. 2015 came in 2014, but a lot of has happened. And one of the primary indicators for that rate going down is the Owen County and Putnam County assessed value has gone up substantially over the last couple of years. And you can see this past year, we dropped below $1. We were 95 cents. When you look at the education fund, you can, these are the numbers. This is the information that you'll be approving at the end of the meeting for the other funds except the education fund. So for the education fund, we're and this is based on 18 months, the last half of 2025 and all of 26. You can see that we're projecting revenue of a little over $40 million in that 6-month period. In 2014, that was $14 million. So things have changed a lot in the last few years at Cloverdale. Obviously, we've netted those expenditures out. We're going to probably gain cash balance, but that's the way that I've worked the budget for 2026. Debt service, we're projected with our current cash balance and local property taxes that we know that we've got coming in the remainder of this year. All of next year's $860,000. You can see our expenditures is $2.4 million. That number is substantially higher than what it will actually be. We have the new project going in, and the new facility that we're going to start building and sell bonds later this year. Projected that first payment of being $1.25 million. It'll probably be far under that, but we work with Stiefel, our financial advisor, and they look at rates and what they think that projected payment may be, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars higher than probably what it will be. But that's budgeted in that $2.4 million. So again, wanting to make sure we cover our expenses on debt payments to our lenders. So this evening at the end of the meeting, I'll be requesting the board to approve a levy of $1,859,917 with a tax rate of 58 cents, a little over 58 cents, which is lower. Last year it was over 60 cents. So that rate has actually dropped a little bit and will actually be lower than that when the budget comes in, because they always give you a lower rate than what you're asking for. The pension bond, you can see what the revenue is that we're bringing in. We make one payment a year on our pension debt, and you can see that we advertise zero levy for that and a zero rate. And the reason we do that is the Indiana code will allow you to use your LIT dollars, local dollars, to be able to pay for that. So what we do is we use revenue we already have coming in so that we don't tack on an additional rate to the taxpayer. So it's one way that we can lower the tax rate compared to other districts that don't have LIT coming in. So on the operations fund, you can see our revenue, our projected revenue over the next 18 months will be just under $9 million. We're projecting almost $15 million in expenses, which again, that's much higher than what we will probably spend. And we're requesting a levy in 2026 for $6,494,710 with the rate of just a little over $2. One thing that I want to talk about on this just a little bit, because the education fund is carrying such a good cash balance, we are able to transfer some of those dollars, up to 15% of the revenue that goes into our education fund, to the operation fund each year. A month or so ago, we did an additional appropriation for the education fund in the amount of $2.8 million because of the additional 15% because our education fund's doing well, that it allowed us to transfer into our operation fund. So the board approved that on my request, that $2.8 million. Well, that $2.8 million that we approved counted or will count as an additional expense in the second half of this year. So that's one reason the expenditures are at least $2.8 million more than we'll actually spend. We don't necessarily have any intentions on spending the additional appropriation, but while I was doing one for the education fund, we just did one for both taxing funds at the same time while we were talking with the DLGF on those appropriations. So again, I don't anticipate our operation fund being any higher than it's ever been, but because that additional appropriation that we have for the second half of this year kind of skewed that number just a little bit, because that is substantially higher than what we've had in the past. Rainy day does not carry a tax rate on it, so that's at 0. You can see what the revenue that I'm projecting coming into that will be. Part of that's a $1.2 million transfer out of the operation fund. The additional appropriation will help satisfy that for the operation as the 1.2 million leaves for the rainy day. So if you look at our advertised versus our actual rates since 2017, you can see that what we've advertised is always substantially higher, but within reason to what we actually get. So 2026 will be no different. We will have the additional debt of the new facility going on, but that will, for the most part, even out old debt going off. So I don't anticipate tax rates going up with the new AV dollars or the new AV increase. We will, don't quote me on this, but we'll probably see at or below where we were at last year. So good news, building a new facility, but we really don't see any major increase to the tax rate. So this evening, I'm requesting permission from the board to advertise the rates and the levies that you see on the screen in front of you in the presentation in front of you, and then also to request permission to advertise the CPF and the 5-year bus replacement plan. Anyone in the community that wants to look at the details of the budget, which have been provided to you in the blue book, will be on the Gateway website tomorrow by around noon, along with both of those plans. So does anyone have any questions or comments that they'd like to make? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now that we've heard the presentation, entertain a motion to approve advertising the proposed 2026 budget, capital projects plan, and the school bus replacement plan.
I motion to approve the budget workshop, request to advertise the proposed 26 budget, capital project plan, and school bus replacement plan.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Carroll. Thank you, Mrs. Holton. I have a motion and a second to advertise all of the aforementioned plans. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimously. Next, approval of cash transfer ends.
If you noticed in your board packet, as you reviewed that, over the weekend, we have several cash transfers that we're requesting the board to approve this evening.
Make a motion to approve cash transfer ends.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Reitmeyer. Thank you, Mrs. Lewis. I have a motion and a second to approve the cash transfer ends. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimously. Next, approval of professional leaves.
We have 3 professional leave requests that you found in your board packet. We request approval for those this evening.
I'll motion to approve the professional leaves.
Thank you, Mrs. Holton. Thank you, Mrs. Carroll. I have a motion and a second to approve the professional leaves. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimously. Next, approval of field trips.
I have 5 field trips requesting the board to approve this evening.
Motion to approve field trips.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Fiddler. Thank you, Mrs. Lewis. I have a motion and a second to approve the field trips as presented. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimously. Next, approval of facility use requests.
We have 4 requests this evening that meet our board policy and would request the board to approve those tonight.
I'll motion to approve the facility use request.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Carroll. Thank you, Mrs. Haltom. I have a motion and a second to approve the facility use request. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimously. Next, approval of personnel.
This evening, requesting the board to approve personnel as outlined in your board packet tonight.
Make a motion to approve personnel.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Reitmeyer. Thank you, Mrs. Lewis. I have a motion and a second to approve personnel as presented. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimously. Board and superintendent comments.
I would just like to remind the community that, as I'd mentioned earlier, our next board meeting, our September board meeting, is delayed by 1 day. It'll be Tuesday, September the 9th at 7 o'clock here in this building. And then also just want to take a minute to thank our administrators and teachers and just our entire staff, everyone that works at the school district for a smooth start to the school year. You know, as I've been through the buildings, many will say it's probably one of the smoothest starts we've had. And I think that goes to good leadership, quality, just good employees all the way around. It takes everybody working together to be able to do that. And part of it I would attribute to the fact that over the last few years, we have not had a lot of turnover. So we have folks working for us that are used to the system and know how we do things here in Cloverdale, and it's made for a pretty smooth start. Appreciate that.
I would concur with that. And in case you hadn't noticed it, I think Eddie did a super job of mowing the football field for the first time, that it looks kind of like I had envisioned. And the fact that we actually have now a robotically machine.
Well, we haven't purchased that yet.
Well,
yeah.
It's a keeper.
Don't tell him you like it, or no.
It's something I've been looking at for a long time.
Yeah, no, it is.
We had straight lines and hash marks,
Yeah.
and as I understand it, green and white scrimmage night went off very, very well. And I thank all of our administrators for getting us off to a great start. I did some babysitting on back to school bash night, but everything I heard that was in the pictures I saw, that had to be a lot of fun for a lot of people. And I appreciate y'all doing that.
We may want to give the administrators just a minute to comment, because I think the freshman class showed up in full force. And I know the other 2 buildings had to get.
Biggest thing to do that camp. We started pizza today. The feed.
There you go.
They stood.
You're right. You're right.
But it's a reflection because I think it comes from you get younger, and we're building a little bit of things.
Yeah.
Elementary, middle school, and then here's this thing.
Yeah.
We want station. Not the case. Therefore,
Had the new PA system working in the cafeteria. That's good.
Yes.
Can hear it.
Awesome.
We probably had, I would say, close to 1,500, maybe over 1,800 people in our building. And the energy, the excitement, and just the energy of the students, it was definitely a great night. I think that everyone who left with a smile on their face, and we're ready for a great year. So thank you for allowing the teachers to have the back to school night, and most importantly, thank you to our community for supporting it.
Very good.
Yeah. And our back to school night, I think since it was so well attended, it made the first day of school very smooth. Our 5th graders knew where to go and what to do, and we were able to pass out a lot of material for the first day. Car rider line, signs, and those things, so that our arrival in the school was really smooth.
Very good.
That's a major process right there. Anybody else? Well, for the good of the